Knowledge of yesterday will produce wisdom for tomorrow. Knowledge of yesterday will produce wisdom for tomorrow. Now, go back to Hosea 4 and read that again, verse 6.
My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee.
See, now, you understand now why the so-called black man, why the so-called African American in this country is in the situation that we are? And we're going to see something in a minute that's going to tie back to this. Let's give you an explanation of how serious this is. And you're going to see that the Gentile nations were not held responsible for these things because they were never given the law and statutes and commandments. Right? This is kind of like how you have a child and then you have a sleepover. And the child has a sleepover and brings friends over, right? Your child knows specifically what the rules of the house is. That child that's coming to spend the night with your friend, with your child, they know based on what the child has said or something that you probably went over. If you come in that room and they're doing something they were not supposed to do, yes, you're going to stern, you're going to correct the child that's not yours, but your child is going to be a whole lot more punishment going forward versus the other child. And that's what we were missing, because when we thought we was the cursed seed of Ham, we thought we were just getting in just so happened because the good white man came in and got us and took the white man's burden and gave us Christ. But you learned in the weeks before, in weeks 4 and 5, that you were chosen. That you knew who Christ was well before you ever got to this country. That you were not the cursed seed of Ham, but you was the seed of Abraham, the seed of Shem. All right? Now, read the rest of that verse.
That thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children.
I will also forget your children. And if you look at where we are today, do not we look like a forgotten people? Even the people that's going to churches every Sunday, their families, from generation to generation, there is no change, no prospering, no change. They're still committing the same sins. They're still living the same lifestyle. They're still doing the same mess that grandmother was doing. And now you got third generation. So we look like a forgotten children because we forgot the law of the Most High. So knowledge of yesterday will produce wisdom for tomorrow. And because our people, the so-called black men, the so-called African American, had no knowledge of yesterday, we are lacking the wisdom that we need for today and tomorrow. Go with me to Jeremiah 17. Jeremiah 17, and we're going to do verses 1 through 4 there. Knowledge of yesterday produces wisdom for tomorrow. Let's get verse 1 there.
The sin of Judah is written with a pen of iron, and with the point of a diamond. It is graven upon the table of their hearts and upon the horns of your altars.
Now look at that. Look at that. He said, the sins of Judah is written with a pen of iron. That means that junk welded into our hearts. And it's not only put into our hearts, but he said what? It's also engraved where?
Upon the table of your heart and upon the horns of your altars.
So that means it's also in y'all churches. Our churches is built on lies that we learned from our slave masters. We didn't know any better. We had no idea. We thought what we were learning, we thought what they told us was right. This is why during slavery time it was illegal to teach a slave to read. They didn't care about you reading Homer or the books of Greece and the Odyssey and all these things like that. They didn't care about you reading that. They didn't care about you reading Shakespeare. Okay? That didn't matter. That wasn't going to change anything. What they wanted you not to know was this. And ever since we walked off the plantations, there's been an onslaught and a strategically attacks to keep us away from this. This is why you have many churches, preachers come in and they basically preach the same scriptures, the same verse sermons, year after year, Sunday after Sunday. And most of it comes from Mark, John, Luke, and Matthew. Nothing outside of that. And because we're not preaching the entire Bible, we don't have knowledge of yesterday. They're telling us you don't even have to worry about the Old Testament. Most people who call themselves Christians have never really dived into anything of the Old Testament outside of Psalms and Proverbs. So when you don't have knowledge of yesterday, the sins that are engraved in our hearts, they're going to override us. They're going to overtake us. Verse 2.
Whilst their children remember their altars and their groves by the green trees upon the high hills.
See, so that means now, because the adults, it started with our ancestors, because they rejected the law of the Most High. And then it went down from generation to generation, and we end up in this country being taught lies by slave masters. What do? You take the same lies that was told to you because you think it's true, and you tell it to your children. So you tell your child, yeah, Christ died on Friday and rose on Sunday. He was in there for 3 days. Like, what? Also, you go out and you go Easter egg hunting. What? And you take a tree and you put it up in your house in December and you celebrate Christmas. What? And we tell this to our children. Verse 3.
O my mountain in the field, I will give thee thy substance and all thy treasures to the spoil, and thy high places for sin throughout all the borders.
So that means our people, the children of Judah, because Israel, the northern territory, had already been ran in by the Assyrians by the time it came into 721 BC. So now only left is Judea, the country of Judea, which consisted of the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Benjamin, and the tribe of Levi. He's saying now, all this great land that you got, all your treasures, all your wealth, I'm about to give it away to you spoils. And I want you to remember this verse because as we go from precept to precept, when we get over to Romans 11, Paul is going to mention the same thing right here. Verse 4.
And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thy heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thy enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever.
Forever. We lost the heritage. And when we lost the heritage, we lost our identity. When you lose your identity, you're going to be wandering the world, not having any idea. He said he's going to do what? He's going to make us do what? He calls us to serve what?
Serve thy enemies in the land which thou knowest not.
No, it's not. There was no such thing as America, even though the land existed at that time, and we're going to learn that our people, the northern tribes, ended up there, and we're going to learn that later on in the year. But at the time of Judea, we had no idea that America, the land of America, existed. We had no idea that the areas of Rome and all those different places where we ended up going and serving existed. And so, because our ancestors chose to do this, is how we ended up in America as slaves. We talked about that in week 4 and 5, so make sure you go back and watch that. So, without knowledge of yesterday, there will be no wisdom for tomorrow. We didn't understand this. We didn't have the knowledge of yesterday because our heritage was lost. Our identity was robbed. And then now when no people come in and say, hey, guess what? We're Jewish. And you're the cursed seed of Ham. How can you combat that? How can you fight that when you don't know who you are? When the only thing you can relate back to is, yeah, I used to be a slave. My granddad, my great-great-great-granddad was a slave in Mississippi. My great-great-granddaddy was a slave in Nassau County. My great-great-great-granddaddy was a slave in Arkansas. That's all you know. You have no idea of anything before that. So when you don't have knowledge of yesterday, you'll have no wisdom for today. Now, go with me to Joshua, the 4th chapter. To get some more understanding of how important having knowledge of yesterday is. Now, how many of you know that having the wrong information will always put you in the wrong place? I'll say that again. Having the wrong information will always leave you in the wrong place. It doesn't make a difference if you're just trying to take a trip, if you're trying to complete a task on your job, even if you meet a shorty, if you meet a girl at Walmart and you're trying to get to know her, if you're basing what you're doing and what you're saying to her with the wrong information, it's not going to work out for you. If you're trying to get to Charlotte from where we stay and you got to go up 74 West, if you have the wrong information and you take 52 South, you will never make it to Charlotte. No make no difference how much gas you got in your car, how determined you are to get there. If you're going 52 south, you will never make it to Charlotte. That's right. You head to South Carolina. And in essence, that's what's going on with the so-called black man, with the so-called African American. It's because we had the wrong information. So every decision that we were making going forth that was raising our children and raising the families, because we had the wrong information, we end up ultimately in the wrong place. Unintentionally. Everything that we did wrong was not necessarily malicious, but it still put us in the wrong place. Now it's 2017, and praise be the Most High that He's starting to wake up some of our people. But for the majority of us, this is the last thing you want to hear. This is the last thing you're willing to accept, because it has been beating to your head over and over and over again about being a good Baptist, about being a good enzyme, about being a good holiness. Well, none of those things have to do with you at all, because you can't find none of it in you. And remember, Psalms 127 verse 1 says, unless the Lord build a house, they who labor do what? Labor in vain. All right? So, Joshua, the 4th chapter, we're going to do verses 1 through 7. Let's get verse 1 right there.
And it came to pass, when all the people were clean passed over Jordan, that the Lord spake unto Joshua, saying, take you 12 men out of the people, out of every tribe a man, and command ye them, saying, take you hence out of the midst of Jordan, out of the place where the priest's feet stood firm, 12 stones, and ye shall carry them over with you, and leave them in the lodging place where ye shall lodge this night.
Okay, now, so this is right here, now, this is after the death of Moses. This is when the children of Israel is getting ready to cross over the Jordan and go into the promised land that the Most High promised Abraham back in Genesis the 17th chapter. See, he not only told Moses and the people there, he told Abraham this back in Genesis 17, that this land that they were entering into right now in the book of Joshua, the 4th chapter, that he will give them, right? The Most High is a faithful God. He never turns back on his word. When he says something to one, no matter how many generations go forth, it's still going to be done by the Most High. So now they're crossing over this Jordan, and the same miracle that the Most High did for them when they left Egypt, when they came out of Egypt and they spread the Red Sea, the Most High is doing the same exact thing again as they cross the Jordan. Because now they're taking the Ark of the Covenant, and the priests are going forth, and as the priests enter into the water with the Ark of the Covenant, the water is spreading back, just like it did with the Red Sea. And see, you got to be encouraged today that there's nothing that can stand in front of you. There's nothing that can withhold you to keep you out of your purpose but yourself. The enemy can do whatever he wants to do. He can lie. He can put obstacles in your way. But if the Most High says that your purpose is that way, your destiny is that way, take Christ's hand and keep going no matter what you see. That's why the Bible tells us in 2 Corinthians 4, 5, and 7 that we must walk by faith and not by sight. So if you just joined us today, not as of yesterday, will produce wisdom for today. And you're going to see an example of this. Verse 4.
Then Joshua called the 12 men, whom he had prepared of the children of Israel out of every tribe a man. And Joshua said unto them, pass over before the ark of the Lord your God into the midst of Jordan, and take you up every man of you a stone upon his shoulder, according unto the number of the tribes of the children of Israel. Mm-hmm. That this may be a sign among you, that when your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what mean ye by these stones? Then ye shall answer them, that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord when it passed over the Jordan. The waters of the Jordan were cut off, and these stones shall be a memorial unto your children of Israel forever.
How long?
Forever.
Forever. So he told them, said, look, I'm about to do this miracle for you. Go in there and get some stones. Bring them to your house. So every time when you sit around and tell the stories, and each kid that comes up, kid's going to come say, hey, Father, hey, what do those stones mean? Oh, yeah, that's when the Most High shined for us, back when we was crossing the Jordan. Now ask yourself, how many of you received stories like that when you was growing up? Because you know what we heard? Martin Luther King went out there and he marched down the road and they shot him in the head. Malcolm X fought for us and they shot him in the head. Medgar Evers went out and they shot him in the head. That's our stories. We don't have stories of triumph of the Most High moving in our area. And this is the problem, because we're not getting the stories of the Most High moving in our lives. The stories of the Most High moving in our families. You should be able to go like I remember when I went to the conference, did this conference down in Georgia, this pastor was telling a story about that when they was younger, you know, their kids used to question what their parents were saying. The parents were always telling them about how the Most High was moving in their lives. And there was a story where they didn't have any food in the house. And the Most High told his dad, tell your wife to go in there and prepare the table. Just the way you do every day. Sit down, get your kids, wash up, and sit at the table just like you do every day. So he goes in there and tells his wife, the wife is obedient, goes in there and sets the table, puts the silverware out. No food in the house. Okay? No food in the refrigerator. Kids come in and sit at the table. Saying, why are we sitting at the table? We don't have any food. Around the time when they said grace and said amen, knock at the door. Guess what? Somebody just showed them and said, the Lord told me to come by and bring y'all some food. Y'all might need it. So imagine when you're hearing those stories of the Most High moving in your life versus your father not being there, not telling you anything. Your father being there and telling you, yo, you need to put this blue rag on, you need to put this red rag on, and you need to go out here and get this money to sell this crap. You see the difference of the stories? There's a popular story that me and my brothers tell all the time. I wish my brothers was on it because they could attest to this. That when we was younger, any of y'all can remember the movie Set It Off, right? My little brothers then at the time, they idolized the West Side Gang, West Side Connection or whatever. It was Ice Cube, Dub C, and this other cat, I can't remember his name. Well, anyway, was watching the movie, and there's a scene in there at the beginning where Dub C plays a character where they rob a bank. Dub C comes in and he tells the woman to give up the money, and the woman won't give up the money, so he shoots the woman in the head, right? My brothers jump up and start saying, West Side, that's how you do it, right? My dad turned around and cussed us out so bad that it changed our life forever. And I tell that story all the time, and I say, imagine situation A, our father not being there at all. Nobody there to correct us. Imagine situation B, our father standing up, high-fiving us saying, yeah, that's how you do it. Situation C, he sits there and he's in his own world, drunk and passed out, and doesn't say anything at all. Imagine the path that we end up taking. And me and my brothers all tell that story. We've told that story to our girls, to our friends. I tell it a lot of times in sermons, and I'm telling it right now. That moment in our lives forever changed us. I was about 15, 16 years old. My brothers was way younger than me, and it changed everything because we knew at that point that our father was not for this business. Our father went to work every day, 40 hours a week, sometimes working hard, longer than that, in the sun, to feed his family. And because we got those stories versus some other mess, it led for us to be the successful men that we are today. Knowledge of yesterday will produce wisdom for the future. And this is what Joshua was telling, this is what the Most High told Joshua. Get them rocks out of that Jordan. So when your children ask you what they mean, you can be able to tell them that the Most High works miracles when you need them. And unfortunately, the so-called black man, the so-called African-American man does not have these stories to pass on to their families because we have not been walking with the Most High in the way we should. But when you have knowledge of yesterday, you will have knowledge, wisdom for the future. Now, go with me to Zechariah 12.